I should begin this video by stating I've never really been a big fan of Russell Brand. He's never really hit home with me. I don't hate the guy, he seems nice enough, but I can never really watch more than 2 minutes of him on an interview. I just find him a bit OTT, even a little bit cringe. Now, I should be fair in saying, from my time in the London spiritual communities, I came across many people who knew him personally. And they all said behind the scenes he's a really nice guy, and he invests a lot of time in helping people with addiction problems, and that's really admirable. So again, this is not an attack on him. From what I've heard from people who know him, he is a good guy. But just personally, my own experience, whether it's in his socialist revolutionary iteration, the spiritual and health guru, or the contemporary conservative Christian, I always find that he just doesn't give me much space to breathe. I always feel like he dominates a room and almost has to be heard above everybody else. However, this admittedly could be a me thing rather than a Russell Brand thing, and it's the way of the world. Not everybody's going to be someone's cup of tea. I'm sure I wind people up with my voice on YouTube and so on. It's the way of the world. But the reason I'm speaking about Russell Brand at the moment is obviously because he's been charged with rape for these historical cases, some of them going back 20 years ago. And there's all sorts of takes you're seeing online about this at the moment. Each one of them, I think, tells us something about us as a society, about Brand, and about our culture at the moment. The first line is that this is the Matrix. That's a sort of Andrew Tate line. Brand has been saying things against Big Pharma. He's gone a little bit right-wing, and therefore the powers that be are out to get him. Another take is that he's adopted Christianity as a sort of front. He's not really a Christian. He's just pretending, he's into it in order to give himself some purchase when dealing with these accusations. And then the other take is that, this is all very genuine. It's just he's honestly adopted Christianity. He's seen the light and he's found himself at long last. When it comes to my take, I must say the rape charges do seem a bit odd. I mean, some of these are over 20 years ago. How can you prove something 20 years ago? And why has it only come up now? That's a very legitimate question, of course. But is it the Matrix, that's trying to take Russell down? I don't really buy that, to be honest. I don't think he's that controversial. I mean, you could argue that he's in that kind of Petersonian right. And that's very much part of the liberal mainstream, just the right wing of it. I think what I would say about this is exactly what I said the other day about Andrew Tate. I don't know if either men are guilty of what they're being accused of, but it's unquestionable that they've both behaved in, let's just say, unethical ways around women. They may not be illegal. I've seen no evidence to suggest it is. However, Russell Brand has been openly a massive sex pest for much of his life. And again, that's very much promoted by the mainstream, indulge in these worldly pleasures. And men very much buy into it in this day and age. But as I said in the Tate video, be careful, men. You can screw yourself up if you start sleeping with all these women. It seems fun at the time, but if you get any notoriety, any status, any money, it can come back to bite you, and you may have done nothing wrong at all. Now, this isn't me saying that Russell Brand deserves to be charged if he hasn't done anything wrong. It's me saying we forget in this day and age that as long as everything's above board, it'll be fine. It won't be fine. The world is a dangerous place. There's a reason why the Bible, why all the holy books warn against promiscuity. It brings so many problems for men. Short-term fun, long-term problems. Now, when it comes to is Russell's Christianity fake, just a way to deal with the charges he's up against, I'd say that's a bit cynical and a bit harsh. I've been aware of Russell Brand's various moves into, Hinduism and Buddhism and New Age spirituality, and he does always seem to embrace it wholeheartedly. And I think it's quite clear that he is someone who's quite impressionable and quite devotional, and someone who's probably, seeking a saviour as well. So I do think that, he genuinely has found something in Christianity, and in his typical way, he's completely dived into it, hook, line and sinker. I dare say he's going with the cultural zeitgeist at the moment with the Petersons and so on and the politics that comes with that. However, if I was to be a bit cynical, I'll just play you a clip from his interview with Jordan Peterson recently. And one thing I noted is that he still speaks in the same Russell Brand way, whether socialist, revolutionary, or apparently man saved by Jesus. Now, this isn't necessarily proof of anything. It's just been my experience that when people have a true spiritual revolution within, it tends to slow you right down rather than speed you up. Good example of this is the wonderful John Butler, the organic farmer turned mystic of the Midlands. You can see him in an interview here, and you just get what I mean.
I think I always found the word happy too small. It was just, it wasn't big enough to describe what I felt, I suppose, at those times. I like to come up here in the early morning and in winter, on clear nights, the stars. I like to lean back over one of the tombstones and look up at the stars. God knows, and I do not. I think I'll leave it at that.
Now, it may just be me being a sensitive soppy socks, but I always find when I listen to John Butler that there is lots of space to move into. When I listen to Russell Brand, I find that there's excess verbosity, lots of movements, you have to listen very carefully, and it's all very fast.
Yes, exactly. But what we have to do is actually, Jordan, is not pursue it, I believe, not entirely down the lines of rationalism, i.e., if you sacrifice this now, things will be better in the future, if you are cooperative with your peers, because in a sense, that's no different than the kind of evolutionary biology that comes out of Pinker and your man Dawkins and all of the atheists. Oh, we can rationally, even love, we can describe love. No.
I do actually really agree with what Brand is saying there, some very good and important points. But as I say, it's more the way it's delivered, which just doesn't quite land with me. Now, this does make me think a little bit of Andrew Tate and Islam. Now, Tate has apparently adopted Islam because, he's found Allah and all that sort of stuff. But if you may have noted, he doesn't move to a Muslim country. He doesn't seem to live a Muslim way. The whole thing seems to be a bit of a LARP against Western modernity. Now, I wouldn't be that cynical towards Russell. As I say, I do genuinely think that his turn to Christianity is genuine. However, I kind of would think a lot of it is still quite performative. I mean, you've seen he's been leading, mass prayers in America with Jordan Peterson, and Peterson's not even really a Christian, even if he has helped turn many people back towards their tradition in the West. Of course, he's been baptizing people as well in the River Thames after only just becoming a Christian himself. I suppose what I'm really getting at here is to truly see the revolution of the self must ultimately die and be nailed on the cross with Christ. That leads us to the great transcendence, the rebirth in the Spirit. That's where we realise the only power on earth is God himself, and the kingdom of heaven comes with that. Now, I could be wrong, and maybe Russell Brand is in that state, but some of the signs here just don't quite hit home, and I don't know, it just seems to me in 5 to 10 years he'll probably be into something else. But then on the flip side, I suppose, like the addiction thing, while he may not appeal to some of the purists in the addiction spiritual world, nor the Christian world, he is at least popularising it amongst many young people who've turned away from the spirit, from their tradition, from a sense of hope beyond the material world, and we can at least hope that he acts as a bridge for people to engage in their tradition and transformation all the more. Anyhow, these are my thoughts on the whole matter. Do let me know what you think about all this down below. And please do like, share and subscribe to the channel. I have big plans for the future and it's really appreciated having you here. God bless and speak again soon.